Welcome, everybody, to a special edition bonus episode of Cageside with John Morgan. John Morgan's not here. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. And that legend of the game right there is none other than Quentin Rampage Jackson. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? I'm good. How's everything?
Yeah, man, things are going really, really well. First off, thank you for coming on the show. Tremendously excited. And, it's just kind of really cool being here based out of Memphis, Tennessee, that we have a Memphis legend. I mean, literally right now, I'm still seeing big dump trucks with your name on it out here.
Yeah, that's my cousin's company. A lot of people might not know this, but my family has owned construction companies in Memphis for a long time now, on my mom's side. So they don't have my last name because my mom married my dad. I got my dad's last name, but my family name is Payne, and they all my cousins and uncles and stuff. They all do construction there, and my family actually helped build the pyramid, and I was there as a kid helping them build it as well.
Man, that is awesome. I'm kind of glad you brought up your roots because I really wanted to talk about those roots right now. And you really came out of Team Mid-South, Jeff Mullins. Now, if anybody really does know, have ever heard the name Jeff Mullins, he's now like the deputy athletic commissioner for the state of Nevada, which is basically the second highest ranking athletic commissioner in the world is Jeff Mullins. He was your first coach. Is that correct?
Correct, Mundo.
And that was off of his old gym off of Winchester here in Memphis, Tennessee, man. And then kind of come full circle. Both of you guys, just legends of this game, came full circle. Now you guys both made it to the big stage, did huge things in this business. What was it like kind of starting out with a small team like that here in Memphis, Tennessee?
Well, when I started out, it wasn't small to me. So I just got into it, and Jeff Mullen was a great coach. He really paid attention. And he knew exactly what my weak points were and what I was strong. And it's all because of Jeff Mullen that I even became a fighter. Because after my first fight there, his show at the New Daisy Theater, right? He was like, man, you beat the champion of Memphis, and you might as well be a fighter. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. And I went on to pursue fighting.
Well, I'm kind of glad you brought up the New Daisy because we were going to get there. But before we do, I don't know if you know this name, David Ferguson.
Yeah.
So me and David Ferguson is my business partner. We own a bunch of fitness kickboxing gyms together. He's got a big MMA gym. And he was telling me a story. I actually called him before we started recording. I'm like, hey, I know you know Quentin. And let me, give me some things to ask him, some funny inside stories if you back in the day. And he said you guys didn't train exclusively together. He was part of another team, but you did some cross training back in the day. He was with Chilcuts and you were a Team Mid-South. But he said you guys both went on a road trip together to corner a couple fighters in a really early UFC fight. I think the guy's name was Dave Roberts and Chris Kondo. And you guys were driving to Birmingham, Alabama, I believe it was, and you were going to corner these fighters making their UFC debut, really early days. And Dave told me that, and this is before anybody really knew the name Quentin Rampage Jackson, and that you guys went into the fighter hotels where your two boys are, and you start howling in the middle of the hotel, and people are looking, who is this guy? Lo and behold, turns out to be one of the greatest fighter that ever lived in, Quentin Rampage Jackson. When did this house start? Why did you start doing it? And how did it manifest to just become your thing?
Man, it's crazy. I don't even remember howling, but I used to always howl when I heard Echo, but I started howling when I was a kid, and I'm guessing it was after I saw the movie Teen Wolf, but I don't remember when I started howling. I just remember when I found out that I was good at howling. I grew up in South Memphis, and we moved into my grandmother's house when she got sick, and right behind my grandmother's house it was a ditch and some woods back there, and it looks real scary and stuff. It's like being in a forest, you know what I'm saying? And I used to play back there and stuff all the time, and I used to howl and act like I was a werewolf. And one day I was riding my bike down the street, going real fast, and I was howling, and the old lady that lived up the street needed some help with the groceries, and I stopped by her house to put the groceries in, and she was scared. She was like, you heard that wolf coming? It's a pack of dogs or a wolf coming. It's coming fast. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I heard the howl and you didn't hear it. And she said, can you hurry up and help me put this up in there? She was an older lady, and she was really scared. I said, Miss Johnson, that was me. She was like, that was you? I'm like, yeah. She said, it sounded like a real wolf. And that's when I knew I was good. And from that moment on, I kept howling and annoying my family. My family hated it. They hated it. And one thing they told me, my older sister told me, she was like, if you go into that fight and stuff, do not howl. Do not howl. It's going to embarrass the hell out of you. And I was like, I just did. I just kept doing it. I still do it to this day. Like if I'm in the shower, if there's an echo somewhere, I'll howl. If I'm by myself with a whole bunch of people or whatever, I howl.
And then it became like such a calling card for you, howling in front of sold out arenas, them howling back. You brought up the new Daisy. And so if anybody's listening that here in Memphis, everybody knows the new Daisy, right? And it was a real hub of MMA here in the Mid South very early on. Um, but you also had fights. I was talking to people, and you had fights, some of your early fights in like Corinth, Mississippi, promoted by another mutual friend of mine, this guy named Mike Kane. You fought in small towns in Corinth, Mississippi, and then you fought your first fight of record. I even just looked it up, and I know that you had to have had fights before this, but the first one that is actually on record, you fought fellow UFC alum Mike Pyle
Yeah,
in the
that's the
New
one.
Daisy.
That was the first fight. Yeah, that was it. The one Jeff Mullen and them threw me in 3 days notice.
And you end up beating Mike Pyle, who goes on to having 20 plus fights in the UFC, stellar career, becomes a coach. Your fight number one is against Mike Pyle. What was that like?
You know what? It was crazy. Mike Powell, uh, very skilled opponent. I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to quit. I had to cut weight that day. I had no idea that the guy was weighing me in was uh was like Mike Powell's friend or manager or coach or something. Because I didn't know anything about MMA, and the guy kept saying I didn't make weight, and I was really pissed about that. And that fight was for the belt, and they wouldn't give me the belt because they said I didn't make weight, but I knew I made weight, and I'm still kind of pissed about that. I don't know who his coach was, but that still haunts me to this day because I knew I made weight. But I guess I was a bigger guy, and they wanted to get a fair shot or me to be. I don't know what the problem was, but I knew I made weight, and so that fight was very nerve wracking because I'm a wrestler. I'm used to cutting weight right before the event, but that was like really close. I was cutting weight like an hour before I went out there and fought him, and I already like didn't have any training. I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. I've only seen like UFC on like the DVDs like a few times, a handful of times. I didn't really understand it, but I grew up fighting on the street, and I thought that would be good for me. The experience of me growing up fighting on the street. I don't want to say how many street fights I've gotten in, but it's a lot. So I thought that okay, that would help me out, and sure enough, it didn't. I had to revert back to my wrestling because I didn't know how to strike, and Mike Powell was busting my mouth up with those jabs and everything, and I tried to throw him out the ring because I got tired. It was a crazy fight. If I ever find that footage, I'm going to post it on my Instagram because it was a crazy fight.
I might ask some mutual acquaintances out here if we could track it down, and if I can, I'll give them to you at the fights on Saturday night. Let's
Bro,
move.
that'd be. I've been looking for that footage for years. That'd be so cool to see that footage of me. My first fight, and I was so tired, and I don't know if you guys remember when I fought Sakuraba. I did the same thing. I got tired, tried to throw Sakuraba out the ring. It was the same exact thing. I threw Mike Powell out the ring because he had me like an armbar train or something, and they they threw him back in the ring. I'm like, oh damn, gotta keep going.
Man, I love hearing these old stories. I actually grew up in Arizona, and I was going back in like the mid '90s to like this great promotion out there. It was called Rage in the Cage. So I remember those infancy days of mixed martial arts. And then you fast forward, you go through King of the Cage, you get into Pride. You go through the Grand Prix there. And then you eventually come onto the UFC, and then end your career in Bellator. But I have to ask. Out of everything that you have done, like, and all the fights that you have, like, what is, if you were to break it down, one career highlight, what would that be?
I guess that would be when I finally knocked Wanderlei Silva out in the UFC. That was I had fought him twice before that. Most people don't get a third match if they lost twice, but I've always known that I could beat him. I always knew I could beat him if I had the right training, had the right training partners. I knew I could beat him, but at that time, the UFC did not want me to win that fight. They thought that him kicking my ass that fight, I think it was like one of my last fights on the contract. They can like get rid of me and stuff like that because they really didn't have any more use for me after that because I wasn't their guy anyway. I come from Pride, so that fight meant a lot to me. It meant
Yeah.
it meant more. It meant more to me than getting my belt, and it meant more to me than beating Dan Henderson for the unified belt.
Man, that I still remember that fight. I still remember the check hook. I still remember all of it, right? So, with that being said, you were the, pioneer of the game. You were probably the biggest name in the sport, maybe you and Chuck Liddell at the time, the highest of highs. And you really ushered in a new wave and a new generation of talent who then has now made their way up the ranks now and is just flourishing in mixed martial arts. So it begs the question, what do you just think of the current state of MMA as it is right now, whether that be even just the low level, mid level, or the UFC, the Bellators, the one championships of the world?
MMA is huge now. I never would have guessed that it would be as big as it is right now. And you have to thank people like Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. So I assume that those are the names that help the sport. Conor McGregor is a household name. And they put more eyeballs on the sport, and so did Ronda Rousey. I'm really surprised that it got this big. I remember like PKA kickboxing back in the day, and it was really good. It was really popular. They was making movies about it, kickboxing with Van Damme and all this stuff. The next thing you know, it disappeared. And I was always thinking that the same things won't happen to MMA, but it did.
Well, I mean, I think most of us can say that Rampage Jackson is a household name as well. And, you ushered in the Conor McGregors and the Ronda Rouseys. So who do you like watch? Who do you like to watch fight today? Like who is somebody that you say, I could just sit down and watch that either guy or gal fight? Anybody that you're a huge fan of?
I like watching Francis Ngannou. He's a good fighter, he's a good knockout artist. And I like watching Sterling. I like watching him fight. I like watching Adesanya. He's good. He's good. I like watching the Diaz brothers. Um, they're good. I always been a big Fedor fan. Um, he's good. Uh, you
So it sounds
know,
like you're just a fan. You're just still a fan. You're a fan across the
I
board.
I like watching people. I like watching people who go out there and fight. So I don't like the people that do all the game plans and all that. I like to watch the people that go out there and fight and have put on an exciting fight.
Yeah, somebody who might be caught in a deep triangle and just pick them up over their head and slam them.
Oh yeah.
Love it. So, well, that brings us to kind of one of the reasons that we're talking. Obviously, based in here in Memphis, Tennessee, we have the United Fight League coming to town. It is going to be this Saturday, the 13th, headlined by a Trey Manley and a Angel Alvarez. But there's something super, super cool on this card. Your son is making his amateur debut. Is that correct?
No. He's undefeated.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
the press release I read was a little bit wrong. I apologize.
No.
Tell us about
Well, now I think he's making his UFL debut.
okay. So
But
tell us about him.
oh, my son, he's my clone. I cloned him in Germany when I was fighting in Japan. I guess back in the day I wasn't allowed to say that, I was had a clone because, Clinton made it illegal. But Germany, they didn't give a fuck. So I cloned my son, and I got him when he was 6 years old, and I've been like keeping it on under the wraps and stuff. And now he's grown up. He's 23 now, and he fights a lot like me, but better. He's he's really tough, and he's still got a lot of learning to do. But I haven't told him. But if he wins this one, I'm gonna turn him pro with the UFL. I'm very proud of him. If he lose this one, I won't let him go pro. I'd rather he get his loss while he's amateur, so I wouldn't be upset with him. I just see what take him back to the drawing board and see see what we could do from there. But I got a good feeling that he's going to win. His opponent's very tough. But my son is trained by Antonio McKee. He trains with like AJ McKee and all those guys. And in my opinion, my son got the best coach in the world, and I'm very proud of my son. He's come from a long way because he grew up with a silver spoon in his damn mouth. So it's hard a lot of times for the next generation to go and do well. That's why you don't see like a Mike Tyson's son out there, or George Foreman's son, or Holyfield's son out there being a big name, or Lennox Lewis' son. You don't see that a lot. You know what I'm saying? Going out there. Sugar Shane Mosley's son is out there. He's doing well. I think he would do well because I talked to him. He got a good head on his shoulders, but that's an anomaly. You don't see a lot of, stars and fighting. You don't see their boys or kids out there doing a lot. Muhammad Ali's daughter did it, which was great, and you were surprised. But let's see what the future holds.
So this Saturday, there are 16 fights on the card. There are 15 pro fights, but it's got to be a big deal when Quentin Rampage Jackson's son is fighting as the only amateur fight on the card. That must it just sounds super cool. It must make you really proud as a fighter. This Saturday at the Memphis Sport and Event Center, United Fight League. Now, you and Frank Trigg both have a stake in this company. Is that correct?
Oh, Frank Mir.
Yeah, you and Frank Mir both have it.
Yeah, you said Frank Trigg.
Did I? Frank Mir. I meant my fault. Yep. Yeah. Frank Mir. You and Frank Mir both have an ownership interest.
Yeah. Frank and I, we're both like have ownership interest in this show. I really believe in this show because of Harrison Rogers. His I like the way he what's the word I'm looking for? It basically his dream is to have a MMA show for MMA fighters, and that's why he's giving out life insurance, health insurance, and he's also giving contracted fighters stake into the company. And he started his own energy drink so the fighters can have even a bigger stake, right? So the fighters can make more money, and that's the reason why I left my sponsor of many years, Monster Energy, and I came over to help him out with F3 because I just never met anyone like Harrison Rogers that cares that much for fighters. And I've been involved in this sport for a long time, and this is a sport that I love. And I really don't watch sports. Really, it's a lot of, I don't really watch sports. But this is a sport that I love, and for someone like Harrison Rogers to make a MMA event, make an MMA league for fighters to give back to fighters, I have to give that company my all. And Frank Mir, I think that's the same reason why he joined up and wanted to be a part of this company.
So I was talking to Sophia, this COO of the company, earlier today, and she was kind of explaining to me, which really is unheard of in these promotions, about health insurance coverage. Now, not only, and correct me if I'm wrong here, as it was explained to me, not only do these fighters have obviously the health insurance coverage for the night of the fight, but they have it all throughout their training camp as well.
Yeah, that's never been done before. And they have life insurance, and they have a stake in the company. No promoter has ever done that, ever.
Well, and that was the next thing I was going to get to, because there's almost a somewhat of a stake for these fighters. They become under contract with the United Fight League, and the longer that they fight for them, the more ownership stake that they have or stock that they have in that company. Is that correct?
That's what I heard. See, one thing about me, I don't understand all that, all the you know the all the share talking bit, and yeah, but I've heard Harrison say that. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? I think it's genius because when you have stake in something, it's like you really care about the outcome. And before when I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. Before when I was fighting in other organizations back in the day, I really didn't give a fuck what they was doing because I felt like they didn't give a fuck about me. You know what I'm saying? I just cared about making my bag, my purse. If the pay-per-view, if I got paid pay-per-view, I was only promoting it because I wanted the extra pay-per-view bonus. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I really didn't care about their company because they made it clear that they didn't really care about me. But this is different. Like if I had a company like this when I was around, you know what I'm saying? I don't care how, I would have stuck with them. I don't care how you know low level it was because right now UFL is just starting out, right? It's not like giving the same purse as the UFC because they're a new company. But I wish something like this was around when I was fighting. You know, I'm kind of jealous of these guys. This starting out and joining because you coming right off from being like entry level pro or just starting out pro coming from like my son. That's why I brought my son over to this organization. He's amateur, going to go pro soon. There's nothing like it in the sport.
Well, this Saturday at the Memphis Sports and Event Center, it's UFL United Fight League 2 here, Memphis, Tennessee. First one was in Mesa, Arizona earlier this year. Nothing but big expectations for this promotion from everything I've heard going around. It seems like just a world-class organization already. So you're coming in town for these fights. How often do you get back here to Memphis?
I don't get a chance to come back as often as I want, but I was there a couple of weeks ago. You know, I fly out tonight. You know, I land there late tonight, and you know, I'll be there till the 15th. I get to spend Mother's Day with my mom, but I wish I could come back to Memphis a lot more often. But you know, I brought a bunch of land out there, and I want to build some houses and stuff, and hopefully they would bring me out there more often. But at the same time, like I don't know what's going on with our economy with the market, so I don't know. But I still got the land out there that my purpose was to have some type of business, something there that can bring me to Memphis more often because right now my life is so crazy. I just go where I have to go. You know what I'm saying? If I don't have to go nowhere, I stay home. You know, I still got a bunch of kids out here in California. I just stay home with my kids and stuff, even though they're all growing up. Pretty soon I can start taking them with me on different places and stuff when they don't have school or whatnot. But I wish I can come to Memphis like at least 3 or 4 times a year, but sometimes it's just hard.
Well, I know Memphis loves you. You're still on the dump trucks. Everybody still talks about you. I appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us. Look forward to watching you seeing you at the United Fight League this Saturday. And for everybody out there, their tickets are still available. Go to the Memphis Sports and Events Center. Also, something cool, you can watch this on Rumble free streaming online.
Yeah, that's cool. Will they show my son's fight? I know he's the first fight.
Yes, they will be showing your son's fight on
all
Rumble.
right.
It's a streaming service. It is going to be free on there. So everybody make sure they'll probably pan over to Rampage himself a few times, screaming in the corner. What are you cornering your son? What's that going to be
like? Yeah. I'm cornering him. I've cornered him every time so far.
That's awesome, man. Well, we look forward to seeing you this Saturday. Anything else you got to say out there? Promote United Fight League.
Yeah, United Fight League. I want you guys in Memphis. I want y'all to support this league because this is a new breed, and they really taking care of the fighters. And much love. I miss you guys, and I'll see y'all there this weekend.
That is Quentin Rampage Jackson. I'm Eric McMahon for Grind City Media. See everybody at the fights, United Fight League this Saturday. Quentin, thanks for joining us.